believe it was Chop Wood, Carry Water, that Joshua Medcalf said this, but he said, don't believe the myths. Greatness is far from sexy. It is dirty, hard work, usually required to be done in the dark when no one is watching, while your dreams are so far off they feel like fairy tales. And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they're doing any kind of business, is that it's a lot of hard work to create your own way and not just earn a paycheck. Earning a paycheck's way easier than starting your own business. But starting your own business is way more rewarding.
All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 50. I feel like there should be some type of celebration for that. 5-0, the big 5-0. We made it. Even with a small break, we've made it to 50 and on our way to 500, baby. I am Mike. This is Chris. We're the Tactical Agents, and today we are going to be talking about top 3 that came to our head, the top 3 reasons new agents fail. And I actually don't like to use the word fail, but I guess that's more clickbaity, but don't renew their license, choose to quit. You know, why they quit, which I guess maybe that's the only way to fail is to quit. So I guess it's fair enough. So that's what we're going to talk about today. A little bit about us. We obviously are the Tactical Agents. We have this podcast, we have a book, we have an online community, and we have a training system called the Tactical Agent Academy. We have all of that, and you can have it all for free. There's no strings attached. Just go to tacticalagents.com, get connected, and if it gains some or adds some value to your business, then that's a win for us. And if you wonder why we would give all that away, well, in the end, if that creates good collaboration and networking and partnerships for business in the future, great. We believe that it will. So we're just giving it away. Anything else to add to our commercial?
No.
All right. Here we go. I guess I should tell you guys, we are going to be doing some expansion on the YouTube channel. So excited about that. We kind of mentioned it last week in our impromptu podcast, and more details on that coming soon. But yeah, let's get into the top 3 reasons new realtors fail. And when I say that we just did this off the top of our heads, I mean it. I was like, hey, let's talk about this. And we just said, okay, what's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3? And we just fired off from the hip. So Here we go. Number 1, they expect it to be easy. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, people come into the business just thinking that because it's easy to get your license, it must be easy to run a successful business. They also tend to come in and maybe have a little bit of success early because they knew somebody that was looking to buy a house, maybe somebody close in their family or something, and it seems easy straight out of the gate, but the sustainability is not there because they typically don't do the work, right? They just expect business to come to them. They think, well, I'm a nice person and people like me, so they're going to use me to buy their house, when that is not necessarily an accurate representation of how business plays out.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that people, is it just because it's such a low barrier of a business to start, right? Like you don't have to do too much. Like, I mean, some states have a long real estate school, but why do you think, what do you think is underlying all that to where the impression that people have is that it's relatively super easy?
Well, I think there's a couple things. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that go into that. One, I think it's the agent social media culture, because they're just always on social media talking about their successes, and then people see the commission and see how much money you can make off of one transaction. So in their mind, in their $45,000, $50,000 a year job, they're like, oh man, 3 transactions a year, and that's all I got to do to be successful and replace my income. But they don't really, especially if they've never had a background in business, they don't understand the expenses and costs that go into running a business, to realize that you can't survive on $45,000 a year as a business owner. You have to greatly increase that because you have overhead costs that you aren't considering. So I think that's part of it. I think, they see it as easy just because they don't, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't it just doesn't sound hard. Does that make sense to you? Like, oh, it's just like, you fill out some paperwork and you sell a house. Like, it's not difficult, right?
Yeah.
What they don't realize is the process of, finding the home, negotiating, all that stuff comes naturally to a lot of people, especially if they have a sales background. But finding the clients is the hard part.
Right.
And maintaining those relationships and making sure that you are somebody's go-to agent. That's the hard part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think kind of related to this, and I guess it's all of one thing. You expect it to be easy, and you make it even harder on yourself when you're unwilling to put in the work, right? So like, if you're a lot of people get into real estate because they think it's easy, when in reality they've got to put a lot of work into it, right?
Right.
Now, are there smarter ways to work than harder ways? We think so, right? We think our approach to the business makes that work more like easy, like easier to do, more enjoyable to do, probably better integrated into your day-to-day life. So I think that there's ways to mitigate that, but you still have to do the right things consistently. And I guess another shade to this for me is that they expect it to be sexy. But it's just boring, right? Like, success is boring. It's just doing the same thing, the right things, not the same thing, the right thing repeatedly over a long enough period of time. And that gets boring. And so it's kind of a weird thing, especially for guys like me and you who love new challenges. And
Right.
A lot of entrepreneurs like new challenges. And so it's difficult, if you have that sort of spirit, to put that work in over the long haul. It's not easy. It's not just flip a switch. So, okay, we don't want to dwell too long on that one. All right, but don't think it's going to be just easy money, right? Get rich quick.
I want to, when you said that, it triggered something. It reminded me of a part of a book. I believe it was Chop Wood, Carry Water. Joshua Medcalf said this, but he said, "Don't believe the myths. Greatness is far from sexy. It is dirty, hard work, usually required to be done in the dark when no one is watching. While your dreams are so far off, they feel like fairy tales." And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they're doing any kind of business, is that it's a lot of hard work to create your own way and not just earn a paycheck. Earning a paycheck's way easier than starting your own business, but starting your own business is way more rewarding.
Yeah, that's good. I like that quote a lot.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, no system. No system to follow to get there. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just try to shoot from the hip, and I think it goes back to what their preconceived notions about real estate are. It kind of ties into thinking it's easy. So they think, I can just wing it and I'll be fine. And they don't have anybody, which I think is what we'll talk about in a later point, is, they don't have anybody telling them the right way to do things. Mm-hmm. So they just kind of go out into the world and try to make their own way, try to reinvent the wheel. And you know, from the ground up. But the problem is sustainability without having one, and people trying to build one on their own. And like I said, reinventing the wheel, it's really, really difficult to do, and people lose interest in it and lose the discipline and lose the willingness to continue to put in the work without seeing the results, because it takes so much longer when you don't have a system in place.
I caught like half of that, so we'll have like, I don't know, everything cut out for me on my end, and then like came back. So
I said some really great things that would have changed your life.
I trust that you know what you're talking about in this, and whatever you said. Yeah, I need to. I'll pay you for some private coaching here to get what I missed and figure that out. But yeah, I mean, everybody needs a way of doing business. If you don't have a way to follow, then you're just going to default to what you assume to be the right thing.
Right.
If you're lucky, your assumption is correct. But the chances of that being true are not so great. So you need someone ahead of you to help you and provide a system. Now, that said, again, not all systems are created equal, but any system will work if you work it, right? You can grow and improve following any clear system of what to do as long as you do it and put in the work, like number one. But there are better or worse systems, and sometimes you can only get that by trial and error, but it really comes down to putting trust. You need to find someone ahead of you that you can look at their business and go, I want what they want. Not the results, not the money per se, but if you see an agent that is happy and their business doesn't seem to take away from their life, it seems to add to it, all that stuff. And if you get to know them, you're like, yeah, this is the kind of person. Well, then kind of attach yourself to that and learn from that. And we obviously do a lot of this stuff digitally, but you need to be around like-minded people who you can follow the process, and then you can learn to adapt and do your own things. On top of that, you can get creative later, but you need a system to follow at first. And
I was going to say,
all right. Number
you mentioned
3
earlier
is,
that it doesn't really matter what system, and that's true. Like, it could be Tom Ferry, it could be Tactical Agents, it could be Ninja Selling, it could be the Core. There's so many great systems out there that work for people, but when you're looking for that system, look for one that has worked for other people, not just some fly-by-night guru who's creating something and saying they've got what you need. But if you find something and there's hundreds of people that have said, I do this and it works, then you know that it works. So go in and do it. And that's the hardest part for people, is the actual doing it. So you have to find a system, but then you also have to implement it into your business and life and actually do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And one of the ways to ensure that you're implementing a system and that you are putting in the hard work is to have a support system, a support structure around you. Accountability, really. And that's really number 3 is one of the reasons that realtors fail is lack of support. They end up on their own with no one around them to explain something to them or help them or encourage them along the way, or to call them out on their nonsense when they say this isn't working. And you have a system objectively to look at and go, are you doing the right things consistently according to what we're showing you in the system? Are you then putting in the work? So all these things are kind of related as you work them back. You need people who will call you out on that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're probably not in the right place.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just don't understand
the
business aspects of real estate from the brokerage side. And one of the key things for brokerages is the law of averages, or Pareto's principle. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. They're looking for that 20%, and the best way for them to get it is a shotgun approach. Let me just bring as many people as I can in here and let the wheat sort themselves from the chaff, right? So that's pretty much the approach most real estate brokerages take, is I'm just going to collect as many people as I possibly can and hope to find the diamond in the rough. And they're relying on the good people who naturally know what to do and who are inclined to do the actual work, kind of come up and kind of rise to the top and show themselves before they really pour into them. So all those people that they decide are in the 80% that aren't going to work out, they're just kind of left on their own. So they don't have that support in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the idea of accountability is, I think, massively underrated, because that's where accountability can fill a huge gap with motivation, because everyone is going to start in this business and have different periods especially early on, where their motivation is super high, and then it tanks and the motivation is super, super low. And when that happens, discipline can take over, right? Like your system, just work the system, just do the discipline. But even then, like, you need a little bit of fuel in the tank. Motivation is the fuel. I think discipline is sort of like the engine, that needs to work consistently, and you need to maintain it. And if you're low on fuel, it's like the little boost can come from that accountability, from others who have been there, who can just share an encouraging word with you or keep you on the path, or drag you along when you don't want to be dragged along, and keep you in when you want to get out. And I think that's huge. If someone feels alone, if someone feels isolated in the business, well then no wonder they're going to quit.
And I think a lot of people really rely on motivation.
Who wants
they
to
watch
feel
all
alone?
the podcasts and they, listen to the motivational TikTok videos and they think that's going to sustain them. But I like to think of motivation kind of like you were saying. If you know anything about an HVA system, there's something called a capacitor inside the HVA system that stores a charge, right? And it releases that charge and gets the motor spinning, but it doesn't sustain that motor. The regular electricity, main electricity coming in keeps it spinning. And I like to think of the motivation as like that capacitor. It's good to get you going, but it's not sustainable. So you have to have that discipline and that drive and that work ethic and those support systems in place to push it the rest of the way and keep the air flowing, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy, and this is where a lot of people are lacking. There's a lot of solo agents out there struggling. Most agents don't close that many transactions. Most agents aren't making that much money. I would say most agents would say they're not where they want to be in their business, and they need more support. They need a system that they can follow that integrates with their life and doesn't take away from it. They need to be challenged. They need to put in the work, but they got to put in the right work. So all these things combined, they're out there. If we can help you in some way with that, then we are happy to. Again, just head to tacticalagents.com, get connected to us in the community, and fire off your questions. Get to meet other people who are ahead of you in the game or you can learn from. Never outgrow learning. Even if you are an agent who's hitting your goals, maybe there's somebody else that can learn from you. Maybe there's somebody else that you can collaborate with or connect with, elevate everyone. And so we're hoping that this community of tactical agents can grow to be a massive influence in the industry and a very collaborative effort on the part of everyone who's participating in that. So check it out. If you like this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to get more content, hit like on this video, follow, like, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Anything else, Chris? All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.